Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and I'm here today at the Springfield Armory National Historic Site, taking a look at some of the experimental M1 Garands in their reference collection. Springfield Armory was the site of, well, R&D on American small arms during World War II. And so there was a whole series of experimental Garands where they tinkered and tested all sorts of different things. So some of these turned into sniper rifles. These were, by the way, the M1E series. So the M1E1, E2, E3, etc. The 6, 7, and 8 became sniper rifles. The 7 became the M1C. The 8 became the M1D. And one of the other main things that they experimented with was the M1 gas system. Are there ways to modify it? The gas piston slash operating rod in the M1 was a particularly complicated and tricky part to make because of its slight dog-leg bend. And they were always interested in finding ways to simplify that. So one of them was the M1E10, and that's what we're looking at today. The Swedes in 1942 adopted the AG42 Ljungman rifle, which used basically a direct impingement gas system. The US got its hands on a Ljungman at some point later in World War II, and looked at this system and thought, that's a very interesting gas system. It's a lot simpler than the moving op rod that we have. Maybe we could adapt that system to the M1 to simplify its manufacture. And so they built, I believe, 2 M1E10 rifles to test out the system. Well, let's take a look at what that involved. Sorry for the interruption, just want to say that today's video is brought to you by Headstamp Publishing, with an extensive catalog of books on all sorts of interesting and esoteric small arms, everything from World War II small arms to Imperial Japanese swords to the earliest of revolvers and Cold War battle rifles. There is something at Headstamp for every firearms enthusiast. Check it out, links in the description text below. These experimental rifles were built on totally standard M1s that just came off the rack. So this particular M1E10 is a rifle that was manufactured in July of 1943, and then rather later than that, this was, I think, late 44, early 45 when they actually did the E10 experimentation. They chopped it up, but good out front. So what they did was take off the original gas block, they put on a new muzzle device, and you might think, like, oh, adding a bayonet lug and a whole new thing to the end seems a little bit premature for a gas system experiment, but remember, there's a gas port out here, and they had to plug that original gas port in order to tinker with the new system. So this is the original op rod. They added a new gas block right here on the barrel. It's screwed down onto the barrel, taps gas into a tube, very much like the Ljungman tube, and then blows it into this chamber that they welded onto the M1 op rod. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at that by taking the action out. So there we have just the action. We'll get a little closer look here. All right, so when this fires, it's going to blow gas from the gas port right into this cup. It's going to push back just like that. And in theory, that provides enough energy to cycle the bolt. And if you were making this from scratch, you could bend this gas tube, and the quality control requirements, the tolerances for this bend are going to be a lot less than the bend in the op rod because this isn't moving, it's just fixed in place. So as long as it clears all the other components inside, it's fine. In fact, if this was going to be done on an original, well, as a factory manufactured thing, you'd probably have the gas port directly down here instead of off to the side. But as a conversion, you leave the original op rod so that everything balances out right. You have enough weight on the original op rod, just as it originally was, so that you're not changing the characteristics of the unlocking cycle. And then they just added this little tube. So functionally, you could cut this off right here. There we go. We can pull this completely out. There's the chamber, and there is the end of the gas tube. Now, in testing, what they found was that this gave them significant overheating issues or significant heat issues, and we can get a good sense of that by looking at the front end of the stock, which would have fit right under here, which is pretty thoroughly charred. I think the issue they run into here is this thing is basically blowing gas into the stock. They've put it on the side and they've recessed the stock, sorry, relieved the stock here, but you're still blowing really hot gas from the barrel basically into the wood. And that's going to cause some, well, did cause them some heating problems. So that was it. They tested it, and they found that it wasn't really a viable solution. The overheating problems would have been more work to fix than the workload that they would have saved by simplifying manufacture of the op rod. The M1E10 was one of the fairly short-lived experimental M1 designs or projects. After they found significant heating problems, they just scrapped the idea. Like, okay, we thought it might have potential. It didn't. We'll move on to doing something else that maybe will work better. So very cool that these rifles got saved as experimental guns. Often that doesn't happen. And they reside today in Springfield Armory National Historic Sites Reference Collection. So a big thanks to the Armory for giving me the opportunity to come here, pull this gun out of their collection, and film it for you guys. If you find yourself in Springfield, Massachusetts, definitely take some time to stop by the museum. They have some really cool stuff on exhibit, from very early American firearms to experimental and prototype guns, a couple Project Spew, very oddball designs up on display here at the museum, as well as a whole section on development and iteration of the M1 Garand. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.